I'm not going to name any names, but something that has been on my mind is the failure of newer artists in this day and age to really sit down and think about how they are progressing in their careers, both success wise and just creatively, like as an artist, like honing in on your skills. There have been so many changes to how we consume music and how we produce it that it's causing people to chase virality, but nobody is chasing impact and legacy. And I think the reason for that is because newer artists are not thinking about evolution. Everyone is just thinking about how to get a quick viral hit. And that's a problem. So let's chat about it. Today's Lex Chat is going to be somewhat of a rant from me and more of like a stream of consciousness type of video. I didn't do any outline for this. I didn't really plan it. It's just like, what do I feel like talking about today? And the reason why I'm talking about this, or what inspired this thought, is I have been looking at different dialogue on the internet, on social media, surrounding certain artists. And especially with the release of the Michael Jackson movie, which I have not seen it yet. I do plan on going to see it very soon, but he brings into question, Michael Jackson and his legacy brings into question how we as artists can use him as an example, right? Now, a lot of people are discovering Michael Jackson. A lot of people are rediscovering Michael Jackson. And there's a huge amount of appreciation that I think is being thrown towards Michael Jackson and just everything that he was, the kind of artist that he was, the kind of music he made, the impact that he has had, still has, and how his music just feels like it fits in any era. And there's a timelessness to it, and there's a freshness to it that even though a lot of his songs were created over 20 years ago, people still feel it. People still crave it and want it. And it sounds good and it feels good, more so than a lot of the things that have come out in the past 20 years. His music is more than 20 years old, and we haven't really been feeling what's been coming out in the last, I'll say 10 to 15 years. It's been getting a little bad for me anyway. I feel like my parents when they say, oh, y'all don't know what music is because we had da 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 da. And I don't think that they're just being old. I think they're onto something. But the thing about it is, right, to get back on track with the topic that I introduced this video with, you don't get to be an artist like Michael Jackson unless you have a purpose, you have a plan. Because even if you're not necessarily thinking of evolution as an artist, right, when you are moving from one purpose or one plan to the next, that's direction. And I think that's what is missing from a lot of artists. To include myself even, I have lost sight. So this is not just like me pointing the finger at anybody. It's also from myself. It's already very difficult to create. It's very expensive to create. And then all of us were competing in an overly saturated market. And now add on to that, we have to compete with AI artists, right? So we no longer start thinking about, what story do I want to tell, or what feeling do I want to focus on for this song, for this EP, for this project. And we're more so focusing on how do I cut through the BS? How do I cut through the noise? There's so many people in this industry. There's so many people doing what I do, supposedly, right? How do I make myself stand out? And unfortunately, the first thought is not, well, let me just make my music better. Well, I would say with newer artists, maybe that is the first thought, but unfortunately, a reality starts to kick in that the music is not enough. In fact, music business is like 10% music and 90% business. But when you think about it, it's like, wow, how do I cut through the noise? There's no simple answer. I mean, unless you have a lot of money, unless you know somebody, unless you get lucky and you become viral, it's really, really difficult to cut through the noise. And I would almost have to, well, not almost, but I would like to caution artists to say that we really have to cut out the noise, and we really have to stop trying to compete on social media. We got to stop trying to compete with numbers, and especially with the way that music is going, right? Some people do get very fortunate and they get to hit it big time and they get to be on big stages and do X, Y, and Z, right? But at the core of this music thing, I think what a lot of us forget is why we started doing it in the first place. And when we first started making music, and I'm just going to use myself as an example. When I first started making music, it was because I felt moved by the music that I was listening to. I related to the music. I felt the music. I cried. I laughed. I sang to the top of my lungs, right? And I was just so impressed with the way that these songs that I was listening to, they were taking me through different emotions, different feelings, and how cool it was that, in a sense, the music was manipulating my mood, or it had such an impact on me that whatever energy they put in this record was transferring into me. And I've always loved the influence that music has had over me. And I always thought it would be so cool to have that kind of influence over other people. And not in a controlling kind of way, not in a manipulative kind of way, but more in a connection kind of way, and like a community kind of way, in a way of you're not alone when you go through something. Someone else has been through this before, and that comforts you and that covers you, right? And it makes you feel a certain way. Music is supposed to be connecting, right? Unfortunately, though, there's been like this movement of people not wanting to connect to their feelings. There's been this movement of people wanting to be savages and, trying to use people for what they can get out of them. And how all of this relates, right? It's losing track of why we started. I'm trying to stay on track with my thoughts too. There's so many thoughts, and this is what happens when you don't create outlines for your videos. It's just kind of a rant thing, right? But let me know in the comments, or comment on the streaming portion, if you're on a streaming platform, what you think about this conversation. Give me your thoughts in the comment section. I started music because I wanted to influence people and bring people together and connect and create community, and hoping that somebody else was feeling the way I felt, or if this feeling had not been expressed before, I could express it so somebody would not feel as alone as I felt. I could express it so that people would feel like there is a community of folks, or a group of people out there who think and feel and are the same way, have the same interests, yada, 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 so on and so forth, right? So as music artists, I truly believe that we are in a time where attention is under attack, and people are doing any and everything to grab our attention. We forget that we're not supposed to be chasing attention. We're supposed to be going inside. We're not supposed to be looking outside so much. We're supposed to actually be digging deeper within ourselves and exploring our mind, our emotions, our feelings, our mentality. Sometimes we can look around and observe the world outside of us, and we either think about, how does that make us feel? Or, do I like what I see? Do I like my surroundings? Do I not like my surroundings? Talk about that. If I don't like my surroundings, well, am I going to complain about it? I could do songs complaining about it. Or can I manifest, which is like a buzzword, right? Can I put into the song what I want to see for myself? And when you examine those things about yourself, I think a natural evolution happens, or at least it should, because you're pondering, you're wondering, you're asking questions. And when you ask questions, you have to be open to the answers, right? Otherwise, you're not progressing. So I think as artists, we have to be constantly asking ourselves, how do I feel? Do I like what I feel? Do I not like what I feel? Can I change it? How can I change it? And all we're doing is asking questions in the music and answering these questions in the music, right? So when I bring this back to the conversation of evolution, unfortunately, I think there are not many people who are questioning themselves. There are not many people who want to look deep inside, because, like I mentioned earlier, the way that we're interacting with music, how we consume it, how we make it, it's changing. And even why we're doing it is changing. So we may start off, for myself too, I have to remember to use myself as an example, because I'm not sure who else is feeling this way, or I just don't want to speak for anybody else, right? When I first started music, I wanted that influence, and it was therapy for me. A lot of times I felt like I created, or I communicated better with people through music and through writing than I do with actually speaking face to face with people. I grew up a very shy child. I don't know why. I grew up very shy, very quiet. I wasn't outwardly expressive. You could ask my parents. There was a whole point in time where I didn't smile for a long time, but I would just tell people that I was happy on the inside, but I just never felt like smiling. So it was really interesting to see that I gravitated towards music, because how can this shy girl who doesn't like to talk, who doesn't like to smile, who doesn't like to emote, how could this shy girl be interested in music? And then, I've had to deal with hurdles in my life where I wouldn't necessarily say I like people. I do love people, but I don't want to be around people all the time. So then why would I choose a career or a pathway that makes it so that I have to be put in front of people and just all those things, right? Where was I going with this thought? For me, it started as therapy. And then as I learned more and more about music, it became, okay, how do I record? How do I make it easier for myself to record this music? Okay, I'm recording this music. Now I kind of want to be recognized for it. And that's the part that gets us, right? We want to be recognized for the music that we make. Once I learned how to write the music, I learned how to record the music, and I learned how to release the music. It was like, okay, I kind of want to be praised a little bit for what I'm doing. Like, it stopped being about me. And it's like a fine line that we have to balance as artists, right? When you want recognition, it stops being about what you want to create and how you want to express, right? And it starts to become, how can I relate to other people more? It's a balance between, I want more people to see this, I want more people to like what I'm creating, but also I want to stay true to myself, right? There's that constant battle that we face as artists, especially if you want to be somebody who has a perception of being very successful, right? And then what does success even look like, right? Do you want to be the next Beyonce? You want to be the next Summer Walker, the next Megan Thee Stallion, the next Chris Brown, the next Drake, the next Michael Jackson, right? And you start to get into, well, how do they do it? What are they doing? What music are they making? How do they dress? How do they speak? How are they collaborating? And we tend to go further and further and further away from what we actually want and from exploring ourselves, because we start to worry about, how do we get the recognition and the accolades? Attention is so dangerous. It's so dangerous. A lot of times, and because we're in this age of social media and people are chasing virality, how this all relates to the question of evolving as an artist, right? Or the conundrum of evolving as an artist. We're chasing quick hits. We're chasing trends. We're chasing 15 minutes. And when we're not thinking long term, because we've been convinced these days that short form is the way to go, when we're not thinking long term, we're not thinking about evolution. We're not thinking about going deeper. We're not thinking about discovering more of ourselves. We're only thinking about, what is everybody else doing? How can I find where I fit in? Or how can I replicate what everybody else is doing? And then you end up, it's like chasing a high. It's like chasing a high. And when you get a little taste of that high, you keep trying to go back to replicate that feeling. I'm reading this book right now called A Piece of Cake by Cupcake Brown. Shout out to my hairstylist, Ebony, who is an Atlanta hairstylist. She specializes in sew-ins. Shout out to her because she gifted me that book. But there's a part in it where Cupcake, she is introduced to, I think, cocaine for the first time. And the first hit, she said, was the best hit she ever had in her life. And she kept chasing that feeling, but she could never get close to that first time hitting that high. And that's unfortunately what attention and recognition feels like. We as people, it's a human nature thing, right? We want to be included. We want to be admired. We want to be recognized for what we do, for who we are. And I'm not sure what part of us needs that. I know that we want community. We want to be recognized within the community, but I would have to ask, what part of our human nature makes it so that we want all the accolades and all the power, and we tend to hoard things. You know, it's just like all the ugly parts of being human. But that attention is a form of a drug. And when you get a little piece of success, like let's say you hit that viral moment and now millions of people know your name, and you're desperately trying to hold on to that attention because it feels like something in the moment, but it's fleeting. You're not worried about what you want to do, because the attention that's most important is actually your own and paying attention to yourself. But we lose that for some reason in the interest of chasing validation from people outside of us. And so we're chasing what we think other people want. We don't necessarily go after what we need to talk about, what we need to address within ourselves. Like, and music is such a spiritual thing too. I feel like people are afraid of spirituality, or we are discouraged from slowing down and exploring ourselves. Because like I said, everything is so fast paced. Everything is so overly saturated. People would have you believe that there's something wrong with our attention spans. I don't think there's anything wrong with our attention spans. I don't think things should move as quickly as they should. I don't think we should have as much access to as many things as we do, because all of it is just diverting you from what you should be focused on, which is self-improvement, self-evolution. But if you never stop or you never slow down long enough to realize or to observe things that's going on around you, of course, you're not going to stop to examine yourself. A lot of times we're not even checking in with ourselves on a day-to-day basis because we're scrolling. We're looking at what everybody else is doing. And we care about what everybody else is doing before we care about ourselves. And I don't know, this conversation is going all over the place, right? But if your cup is empty, you cannot pour into anyone. And that's something that we are all balancing, right? Because of course we have different desires and we have things that we want, but we cannot achieve those things being pulled in too many different directions. And this is something I had to come to terms with myself. I'm not rushing anything, but I also want to explore different aspects of myself or different things that I want in life. A lot of times I would overdo it by giving too much of myself and I end up being burnt out, but I don't even want to get into that conversation. I really want to stay on the topic of this idea of self-actualization, self-evolution. And the reason why the music doesn't hit the same is because everyone is chasing that high. We're forgetting the plot. We are the plot. Like, you as the individual, you are the plot. I am the plot for myself. You are the plot for yourself. I am the main character in my life. You are the main character in your life. And before you aid anybody else in their story, you need to make sure that your story is being written the way that you see fit. And how that all relates to the music, you can't make music for other people all the time. I mean, you can, but in my experience, when I've tried to just like fit into whatever the wave is, or I've been encouraged by certain producer friends to do X, Y, and Z because that's what's hot, or even in the sync licensing world, right? We need female rappers and we need this kind of sound. Can you do that? And yeah, I can, but is it fulfilling? To let you in on a little secret that I don't even know if I should say this out loud, but when I rap, I feel like it's mediocre. I'm just saying the first thing that comes to mind. Now, in some respects, I really like that because I'm not thinking, I'm not inhibited. I'm just letting it out. But in other ways, it's like kind of feels too easy, right? Or it feels lazy in a way because I'm not thinking about it deeply. So there's a space for that, but it's also like, I don't want to keep doing this way because I'm not thinking more deeply. I'm not trying, you know? Some people like that. They feel that. They don't want you to try too hard, but I want to be better, you know? And actually people seem to like my rap music more than my R&B music, but R&B music, I feel it more than I do the raps, you know? And I can fit in to get paid. I can fit in to get my placements. I'm talented enough to do that. but is it making me feel fulfilled as an artist? Not necessarily. It pays my bills, and that feels nice to know. But it feels like I am sacrificing or ignoring a part of myself in the interest of appeasing this over here so that I can have money for that over there. You know what I'm trying to say? And it's keeping me and just having to pay bills too. Like, yo, it's keeping me in this loop of doing things because that's what I need to do to pay bills or to fit into this lane or X, Y, and Z versus being able to do it because I genuinely enjoy it. And when we stop enjoying it, we stop evolving or we stop experimenting. Even if you're not thinking about evolution, right? Do you even stop to think, I did it this way before. I want to see if I can do it differently. I want to try this. I want to try that, you know? And doing it because you want to explore your own bounds, not because you're trying to keep up with anybody else. There's beauty in that. So I guess it's a question of, naturally, I think somebody would evolve just by experimenting. So evolution through experimentation. Experimentation leads to evolution. I don't know what I want to call this just yet. We'll find out when the video comes out. But this is just me rambling about, the problem that I see when it comes to why music doesn't feel the way that it used to, why music feels so trendy, so popcorn, like nothing sticks, right? It's because we're not thinking deep enough for real, or we're afraid to explore different parts of ourselves. So if I had to impart any wisdom, I guess I would just say that look within and don't be afraid to talk about anything. Don't be afraid to comment on things. Explore how you feel or explore what you want to feel. Explore where you are. Do you like where you are? If you don't, what would you do to change it? Or even complain about it a little bit. Let it out. Like I said, music is spiritual. It's a release. It's therapy. It's so many different things. But you cannot get caught up in doing things for other people, trying to fit into a trend, trying to make money. It's not as fulfilling as when you just get to have fun and experiment for yourself. And when you just get to have fun, and that's why I haven't been enjoying music the way that I should, because the double-edged sword that I am on right now is I love music so much that I made my entire life about it. And nothing is good without moderation. Too much of anything is not good, right? I made my whole life about music. My job is music. So now I have to perform for other people to feed myself, to survive. And it takes the fun away because now I'm not going to it. I have to do it. You know what I mean? I'm not choosing it necessarily. I have to do it. And I really could go on a rant about how beautiful it is when you recognize how God allows us to choose Him and how much more beautiful that relationship is when you choose Him and He chooses us. Whew. When you get to choose and you make a conscious choice every day to show up for it, it's beautiful. But now I'm just ranting. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Let me know what you think about it. This was more so just a rant and just stream of consciousness, just me getting out thoughts out loud, I guess. Take from it what you will, leave what you don't resonate with. And I just thank you for tuning in to this episode of LexChat. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll be notified each and every time I post a new video. And in the comment section, let me know what you would like to chat about next. But I thank you so much for joining me on this rant today for LexChat. Until next time, my name is Lexi. Peace.
Drink on it, pour it on. If you wanna lean on it, lean on it. 'Cause I understand. On it, smoke that. Yeah. Gone it, drink that. Yeah. Gone it, lean that. Yeah. Gone it, pop that.
Oh,